title, I couldn't fit the whole title on the slide, so I just called it project management. But the title is called Profitable Project Management: How to Deliver Quality Work Without Losing Your Sanity or Your Margin.
That's the important part.
Yeah, yeah,
You got to be crazy to be a contractor anyway, so you might as well make some money at it.
yeah. So this is a picture of me, Irwin Wagner Construction. It's, so the next slide is this is a little bit about me. I started in residential construction in commercial construction in 2005. And I started working in estimating from 2006 to 2008 in commercial construction. Then from 2008 to 2012, I went back to school at San Jose State and got a degree in civil engineering with a focus in construction management and structural engineering. Then after I graduated 2012, 2013, the economy was actually really bad and I couldn't find work. So I actually worked as a laborer for a drywall company for a year. And then finally in 2013, Chris Donatelli, who recently passed away, he uh he hired me on as an estimator for his company. And from 2013 to 2015, I've worked under him. And Linder Jones actually I was like, he sort of like discipled me too in estimating. And then in 2015, Chris Donatelli announced his retirement, and me and my former business partner, Umberto Barrios, formed a new company called Barrios Wagner Builders. It's now called BWB Builders, but we separated in 2018 because we didn't like each other. No, we actually separated, but like we're still in contact and stuff, and we talk. There's no hard feelings or anything. And then in 2018, right after we separated, I formed a new company. Um, and then that company is called Irwin Wagner Construction, and that's been essentially going on from 2018 to now, 2026. The first 2 years, I was just consulting with like estimating and contracting services, and then we actually formally became a general contractor in 2021. So that's a little bit about my background. A lot of what I've learned is basically from Chris Donatelli and the systems that he had in place. And when me and Umberto separated, basically I took all the systems with me, essentially because Umberto didn't want to pay me for them, so I took them all with me. So, so a lot of what I'm going to be going over is basically systems, managerial systems that I learned from Chris Donatelli Builders and implemented with Umberto and Barrios Wagner Builders, and now we implement with Irwin Wagner Construction. So these are just some quotes um, regarding uh, just inspirational quotes regarding management. First quote is, if you measure it, you guys have probably heard this, if you measure it, you will manage it. This quote I actually use quite a bit. Like, I think it's I use it a lot with just budgeting, like personal budgeting. Like I find like if I'm paying attention to like measuring what I'm spending personally, like I tend to manage my budgets more when I'm tracking what I'm actually spending. I think it's sort of the same though with management of a construction company and projects. Is that if you're measuring like how much labor's being spent on a project, how much materials being spent on a project, how much you're paying your subcontractors, how much you're going over or under what you've budgeted. Like if you're measuring it, you're gonna end up managing it. And also when you manage it, what ends up happening is it just helps you make decisions. It gives you insight as to like, should you charge a client a change order, or should you like, you know, nickel and dime a client, or should you like, let some things slide depending on like how well you're doing on a project. Um, these other two quotes, I make lists to keep my anxiety level down. I think a lot of management actually has to do with making lists and making schedules. And when we do make lists, it it helps with anxiety and it helps you kind of understand what needs to be done. A conversation I had with someone like I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We were going over some lists, and the guy I was going over the list with was like, "Well, I know, like, of course would do that. Why do I need to put that on my list?" And I responded and told him, everything on my list, I know I have to do, but I put it on my list so that I don't forget to get it done. So everything on your list, you have to do. It's just to make sure that things get done. And you don't have to remember it, right? Because it's on your list. So you just have to go back and look at the list. And then a lot of management really comes down to systems, and that's basically what I'm going to be talking about mainly today is systems that we implement in our company. And this quote here says, "A bad system will beat a good person every time." And so you can have like good employees but over time it's gonna if you don't have good systems in place, like you're gonna lose money because you're not managing things properly and you're losing time, or your employees are going to the store 4 times a day, not producing things, but just you know essentially buying things and wasting gas money and whatnot. So the more systems you have in place, like the more efficient things will run, and things won't get forgotten, or there's a lot more. It's sort of your management is planned out. So this is just what we're going to discuss today. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is construction codes, because our company uses construction codes, and it's kind of run throughout our entire it's kind of integral to our systems is using construction codes. Then I'm going to go over like meetings that we have as well as time cards, our pre-construction, what we do for pre-construction to help a project run smoothly. I'm going to go over lists that our company makes, selection schedules, that's like product selections, as well as project schedules, which is more like an actual like Gantt chart that we use to manage projects. And then I'll also go over change orders. So that's what I'll be discussing today. So the first thing, and John, I don't know, are you familiar with the construction CSI codes?
Yeah, I don't know if I go with the same one. I get them a little more. Yeah, that looks about right.
Okay,
I add to it too though, because in my estimating, I have labor as a .01, materials is a .02, and then subcontractors is a .03.
okay.
So you can kind of keep it. I don't know if you guys do that too, but it kind of keeps them.
I don't, but like it's essentially the same thing. We just
Yeah.
have labor, materials, subcontractor, and sometimes equipment or other like just all under that same code. But it's just instead of dot, we just actually call it sub or labor.
Yeah, it's just on our software that we use is Build Tools, and it keeps things straight so that when we do job costing, if it's in those different categories, it could job cost the different categories so you can see where your mistakes are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so these codes are basically, and we use like these are the main divisions within each of these divisions, and this like Division One general requirements. There's like 10 subcategories in all these divisions, especially in like finishes. There's a lot of divisions in finishes, wood and plastics. We actually call that finished carpentry. There's a lot of divisions in that as well. Um, but basically, can you hold on one second? Sorry. Sorry about that. So yeah, so this is actually the old CSI code that we use from 1995, and it's mainly because I've always used this code, but the newer version I'm not sure what year it was updated, but like the CSI codes are actually different than these. But we actually use the older version of the CSI code. And this is kind of important when it comes, and you know this, John, when it comes to like processing a lot of different aspects in project management throughout the duration of a project. So these are just forms that we use. Like so, this form on the left is something that I give to all of our employees and like and have them put it in their like truck or their car. And it's basically like the CSI codes that we mainly use as like our employees. So like there's a lot of other codes, but a lot of stuff we sub out. So, but this is like the general work that we do as that our employees do like in-house. And so I have them have this in their cars so that when they like buy something from a Home Depot, they actually will record like what job it is and what code it is. Because and then all those receipts get sent to our office at the end of the week or at the beginning of the week. And so that our office staff can plug the materials that are bought throughout the week into our system so we can compare what we budgeted for a project versus actual costs for a project. So that's what this first list is. The second list is something that I put in a binder, a job binder that like we have an office job binder and we also have a binder that we'll give to our field staff. But this will basically like we'll actually list the subcontractor for each of these categories, either subcontractor or material supplier. And then we'll put like what we've budgeted for, and then also we'll double check what was budgeted versus like what the actual proposal was before the project even starts. So it might even be before we buy anything. We just like we'll run through this to make sure that the numbers are correct. And sometimes like I'll do a bid and like under Windows, like I may have budgeted like $23,000 for Windows, but the actual proposal came out at like 23,500. And so that lets me know like okay, we're already over budget from like you know, this just kind of gives me an overview and gives our lead carpenter an overview as to what's actually in the binder and where are we over, where are we under. In general, like we always try to make it so the budget equals the proposal. Normally the budget's actually higher than the proposal. The proposals I always will buffer. So let's say like I have like an installation bid from our installation subcontractor and it's like $18,000 the proposal is. Normally the budget will have like 18,750 or $19,000. I'll normally put extra money in there because like we end up like adding labor or doing something extra or it's just to sort of buffer each section. So these are two lists that we use where we're using the codes uh and they're going in the binders and it's to double check all the subcontractors and suppliers, and then also our employees will get all these codes so that they can fill out their receipts, and also that it helps them fill out their time cards too. This
Hey,
this
hey,
next
Mark,
this
Mark,
sorry, go
sorry to
ahead.
interrupt. This is really good stuff. And just curious, Judy was wondering if like we have summary notes for this entire meeting. I was just wondering, is it possible for you to share your presentation with everyone when we're all done?
Yeah, I can share it. Yeah.
Great stuff, right, Judy? Yeah, we don't want to miss out on this. Okay,
Who's
thanks,
Judy
buddy.
with? Who's Judy with?
Judy, yeah, Judy, where are you from, honey? Go ahead and take yourself off mute and tell us.
Hi, I own a small business in Walnut Creek. We're a design build.
Nice.
All right.
I love it. And I don't know if you saw this, Mark, but we also have Robert Tovar here as well. Hey,
Oh, okay,
Robert.
great. Hey, Robert.
Eric's here too. So we got quite the crowd, man. You picked the right title. Everyone's showing up, all the cool kids.
Okay, cool. Welcome everyone. So this is just weekly management schedule and time cards. So like the, this spreadsheet, I guess you could call it on the left. This is what we have weekly meetings like Monday morning with management. And management consists of like the production manager and our lead carpenters. And each person will get one of these sheets. I'll hand them out to each person. And we'll put the date under the day, like Monday, and then the date, Tuesday the date, Wednesday the date, and then the schedule for the week, and we'll put the date for the entire week. And like what I'll do is like for each employee or for each lead carpenter, I'll normally put their initial at the 6 o'clock hour, and then I'll put the job name underneath that, whatever job they're going to be at, and we kind of just like we'll like go through the week with everyone because like one lead carpenter might be at like one project on Wednesday, and he might say, "Hey, the first 4 hours, like I'm going to be working on Windows, but I'm going to need someone at like 12 o'clock." So then we'll be like, "Okay, we're going to send this guy over to you at 12 o'clock." So it's just kind of like everyone gets together and we kind of like form schedules so that like we're kind of all on the same page and like we know where to like shift our labor for that particular week. Now, for me, like I'm very like I like when I make a schedule, I like it. I like to stick to it, and so I tend to like will contact the carpenters and like make sure like hey like make sure you look at your schedule because some of them they'll make the schedule and they'll just put it in their truck and they won't look at it ever again. And so like they kind of need to be constantly looking at it because it's sort of what keeps them on track. And that's something that like I try to hit home with the carpenters, the lead carpenters, is that like you can't let other people manage your schedule. Like you have to make a schedule and stick to your schedule. And so if someone like calls you and say, "Hey, I need you to come over to this job and so, if on your schedule it's not to go to that job, you should look at your schedule and say, "Hey, like, is it cool if I don't make it today? Do you really need me there today? Or is it okay if I can like make it on like Wednesday?" Like, you can kind of you don't want people to just mess with your schedule. You sort of want to stick to your schedule. So, and I think when you do that, and when our lead carpenters do that, we produce a lot more when they actually stick to what we planned.
Hey,
Not to say
Mark.
that like you don't go off plan, but yeah.
Hey, Mark. Judy was asking in the chat, is all of your scheduling done in hard copy or electronically?
We do it in hard copy because some of the now we could do it electronically, and that's probably what will end up happening, but right now we just do it in hard copy, yeah.
I figure with electronically, you can disperse that information more readily, but then hard copy, I guess, is, old school. What
Yeah, it's more old school, yeah.
is it just for documentation purposes that you hold on to the papers, or I'm just fascinated.
No, it's just that we haven't implemented a system that's online.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
How
And
many
that's
just
the thing, is like you can have systems that are hard copies and systems that are online. The online system in general is better. But like if you have a system that runs well, like it's gonna run well. Like it's just I would still want to meet with them on Monday morning and go over the schedule, right? Like, so, like, all that would still happen. It would just be like if someone tweaked their schedule and moved it, like, moved something from one day to another, and it was done on soft copy online or in the cloud, the communication is just a little bit better. But if you do have systems that run, like, in general, like, if it's a good system, like, you're gonna produce well.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing goes with time cards. This is our time cards, and you can see it's kind of hard to see, but we have the job name, the date, and then we have this is your CSI code. So like we have the client, our our employees fill this out, and they basically just put the hours underneath the codes that they work. And these are all the codes that we typically will use. And so this is just we have them, and I try to get them to fill it out, each employee to fill it out, at the end of each day, like take 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day to fill it out. Because what ends up happening is like they don't fill it out. At the end of the week, they just kind of make stuff up. And that's kind of, I'm sure everyone like I'm talking to right now that's either design build or general contracting, you probably run into the same issues with your employees. But yeah, this is also done hard copy. This is a pre-construction form that we use, and this is something that we do like before a project starts, where we'll meet with like it'll be me, it'll be our lead carpenter, and then it'll also be the two owners, and sometimes even the designer, the architect is there as well. And basically, what this form is for, and the system, how we use this in the system is this is like this kind of sets up the entire project, like the logistics of the project. So like this first line item says best day to have a job site meeting. So like we ask everyone in the meeting because we have weekly meetings with the clients and with everyone that needs to be in the meeting. So if the clients want the designer in the meeting, then like they'll pay to have the designer there. But or if they want the architect there, then they'll pay to have the architect there. But basically we schedule a weekly meeting and we during this pre-construction meeting, we choose what day that weekly meeting will be. You know, we go over like who the primary contact is. So who like will I be like texting the husband or the wife, or do I text both of them? Like who's going to be the one that's like not too busy and is always on like work trips and whatnot. So we kind of just will like talk about logistics in that sense. Best time to call. So uh, exchange email address. Normally that's actually done prior to this meeting. We talk about security systems, when we're in the house, is there some, is a garage, like, uh, garage door opener, code to get into the garage door, or like, how are we going to gain access to the house? We're going to need a key, put it in a lockbox. This is where the lockbox is going to be. We ask like the owner's work hours, who's the decision maker. We'll ask about alarm systems, um, storage locations, like where can we store our tools, where can we store the equipment, materials. Um, we'll also during this meeting we'll identify like items that need to be saved, and we have like a list too that we make, and I'll be sharing that list, a list that we make of saved items before we demolish anything in the house. We go over like everything that the homeowners want to save. And then we'll go over locations of saved items. So and a lot of times, you think this is like stupid stuff that like, oh, this doesn't need to be talked about. But when you bring up all these logistical things early on, you address them all early on, and you just like you determine where everything needs to be. You don't have to worry about like stuff getting damaged, right? Like you have a process, you have a system in place that like that secures everything. You don't have like people asking you about codes. Because like what we do is after I fill this out in that meeting, I'll make copies of it and put it in the job binder. So like the lead carpenter will have all this information. If I ever like the subcontractor asks me about a code, or where they can park. It's all on this. We ask about like children, like sometimes like a client might have like a child that has like Down syndrome or whatnot. It's just stuff that you wouldn't think like matters, but like it might matter. And just knowing, or pets, like they don't want their cat getting out. We got to make sure the door's closed all the time. So we go over like all these logistical things, change orders, like at contract signing, are there any like change orders at that time that need to be like addressed like before the job starts? Because if there are change orders that need to be addressed before the job starts, and we always push to get decisions made early on, because that also makes the project move faster. So to get decisions made, like, and have change orders signed, because the more change orders that we make throughout the project, the more information we have to pass on to all everyone involved. And so if the scope doesn't change as much early on, it makes it so there's not as much, paperwork that has to change. Um, so yeah, this is just a bunch of logistics that we go through in the pre-construction phase before the job starts. So this is that save list that I was telling you about. Like, so we'll fill this out, like the customer name, the date, and we'll just go through like the items that need to be saved and the location where we're going to store them. And then when I do fill this out, whoever's going to be like showing up to the job site, because sometimes the lead carpenter is actually not on the job site early on in the project. Like I might have someone that's like one of our employees that's like he's kind of our dedicated protection guy. Like I'll hand them these forms and say, hey, this is what needs to be saved. This is the location they need to be in. This other form here is it's a binder checklist. So when we do make the job binders, like this is just another list just to making sure that we have everything. So like I'll put this in the beginning of the binder and make sure like before I hand the binder to the like lead carpenter that all of these like items are actually in the binder. And if there's anything missing, I'll put a note saying like this isn't in the binder right now, or I'll signal that it's not in the binder. So like customer contact information, copy of the contract, copy of the specifications. We have an estimate that's like it's a proposal that's very specific as to what the scope of work is. And we want our lead carpenters to be reading that because it gives them we want them to study the drawings, but also read the scope of work that we sign contract with. And so then there's the budget. So like our lead carpenters they'll know like how many hours we have in each section in the budget. And it's like maybe a 20-page spreadsheet. And it gives them like, what's in the budget, how many hours are in the budget, like what the markup is. So like our management will know, what's essentially how much money like the company's making on the job. And we kind of want them to know that, or I like them to know that just because like if we're losing money, that means like, we're not going to be having like a happy Christmas at the end of the year. So like they need to know how the company's doing. And so like no, it's not for everyone. It's more for like your trusted employees that are at the managerial level. But then we have like our subcontract versus budget checklist. I kind of went over that checklist, which was one of the previous slides. The plans and the permits, I make sure that those are like we have copies of that. The job schedule, I make sure that the lead carpenter has that. The completed save list, which is this list to the left. So it's the cabinet drawings, like we want to have the cabinet drawings, the appliance specifications, the plumbing specifications, all those need to be in the binder. Now again, some of this can be done electronically, and there's companies that do it electronically. We still do it like hard copy. We do also have we have it in the soft copy in the cloud too, but we still like go off of the binder. And a lot of this information too, we'll actually have like a job site bin that we have on the job site, and we have a lot of this information in the bin too. So, and I'll let all the subcontractors know when they show up to our job site, like that if they need any information, like they can always check the bin. Like our plumber will want to know the plumbing specifications or the appliances when they're plumbing things or the electrician. So, they'll go to the bin because they know it's always in there. So like these are little things that you don't see as systems, but it's a system. And if everyone knows that's what's going on, everyone knows they need to go to the bin if they need information. Or sometimes they go to the bin and it's not there, and they'll contact one of either me or one of the lead carpenter and say like, "Hey, this isn't here," and then I have a soft copy and I can email it to them.
Hey, Mark. Arthur
Yeah.
has a really good question. He says, first off, he says, thanks for sharing your best practices, Mark. Since these are all forms/templates, I wonder for you and the group, what's the opinion on software solutions for some of these schedule, logistical, and list related tasks? What are you using or what do you don't like using?
Um,
And maybe everyone can share.
so
Like,
like, yeah, I think it'd probably be better for everyone else shared. In general, like our company hasn't really moved into like, you know, like
the
where we
21st
should
century?
be right now. So like, but I know there's like, 'cause, like for instance, like we use QuickBooks, right? So
Okay.
like, and I don't know how many other companies are using QuickBooks, but
I am.
when you're using QuickBooks, and then I have a separate estimating software. So I have like three different softwares that I'm using, and so it's kind of hard to like put it into a system but it's something that like, I mean, you could probably use like Google Docs and do all this through like, just a Google Drive.
Yeah.
But there's like, I know there's construction software that implements all this, and I'm sure like companies like Next Stage Design, but I don't know, John, what are you using?
And John says QuickBooks is being used by 78% of small businesses. Absolutely. So, John, what are you
Yeah.
using?
So we have QuickBooks in the background
Uh-huh.
for just the accounting aspect of it, but it interfaces with build tools, which is what we use for all our lists and data and all that. But there's a bunch of them out there that do, goes straight through from estimating all the way through job costing at the end. So, like I said, we use build tools, but there's a bunch of them. I forgot a
Yeah.
slew of them. You're never going to like any of them because they don't do something the way you want. Um, I've kind of kludged together how I estimate, which is still on an Excel spreadsheet, but then we enter it into build tools and that starts the whole process.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's like and what I found is like it can be somewhat of an undertaking and
Yeah.
when you take on the undertaking, like it's an investment, right? Because like everyone has to learn the software, everyone has to learn it. Your bookkeeper, your office manager, your lead carpenters, like so so there's kind of a hodgepodge. So even like what John was saying about like, he does the estimate on an Excel spreadsheet and then transfers out to another. Like there's an aspect of like inefficiency there, but then there's also an aspect if he did move to another software, like, you know, how long will it take? How much of an investment it is?
Yeah.
And so it can be somewhat of an undertaking and like not to say it is a good thing to do. And I think like especially now with AI coming into play, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that like if we don't like start moving into the 20th, 21st century, it's
Estimating is kind of unique in that everybody estimates differently. And what I found with a lot of the software programs is they always want to build units. And it works really good for new construction where it's like, okay, how many square feet of drywall? Well, okay, that's nice, but how many patches are we going to do?
yeah,
So that's why I always like to do my Excel spreadsheet. I started it when I started the business 30 years ago. Yes, they did have Excel back then. And I keep using it because all the estimating software that I've seen, it's not like I don't want to switch. I don't like it. But I would think if someone started out using that, it probably would help you in the end because you could start off with how many square feet of drywall and override it for like, okay, how many patches do you assume? And you can build your units that way. But yeah, a lot of times it's like how many linear feet of wall, how many linear feet of or square feet of roofing, how many, on and on and on and on. Uh,
yeah,
and then the issue is you always got to keep those up to date. And I use a lot of subcontractor costs, so I don't care about what the normal cost of roofing is because I get a price from my roofer and I just pop it in under the
yeah, yeah,
subcategory.
yeah,
Well, here's a question. Okay, so I work with, plumbers and electrical and HVAC as well. And a lot of them use Service Titan or Field Pulse. Is that any of that applicable to what you guys are doing?
um I know I've never heard of those, but like subcontractors sometimes they have specialty
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
software for like that specific trade. But I don't know, John, have you heard of those or
And then Judy's saying that they also use QuickBooks and a very detailed Excel spreadsheet with multiple tabs for each separate room category for the project. Oh, that's beautifully organized. That sounds gorgeous. Arthur, since you were the one asking the question, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind chiming in. Take yourself off mute. What are you currently using, Arthur?
Oh, so I'm not a contractor.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, but I am very interested in what you guys use every day because I'm a co-founder of a small startup based in San Francisco. That's trying to figure out how to use AI for mostly logistical coordinative tasks
Ah,
in
okay.
remodeling and home and custom home building. So thanks so much for all your input, guys. It resonates a lot. Nobody likes working with stuff that isn't flexible enough for your unique workflow. Like I hear especially your point, John, about the way you want to do estimating kind of depends on your methodology. Yeah, that's not a great thing that software can solve.
Yeah. But
yeah, and something too with like software in general, like and John kind of hinted to this, like there's some like I have an estimating software that I use that's it started off based on Excel and then it's not really Excel based anymore, but like they also do scheduling, they also do like a bunch of other things, but they're really good in one area, but their scheduling sucks. So like you can never like what John was saying is you can never get like a perfect program. So it's kind of like sometimes you kind of will you can kind of do like a hodgepodge
Yeah.
of like different systems.
I was going to say one of my examples is we're using build tools and it does job costing, but it does job costing by cost, which I would assume would be good enough for most people. But I want to see how many hours people spend. And it's kind of skewed. So if I bid, 50 hours at $75 an hour and I put a bunch of laborers on it, I might have my costs down, but I don't know how many hours they actually spent. So I would like to know that too. So then we have to go back into QuickBooks, find the hours, and do basically an Excel spreadsheet of how many hours we did, even though we already know we made money because the cost came in less than I estimated.
Yeah, yeah.
So, there's never going to be like the perfect solution, and especially in remodeling because it's so diverse. I mean, the other day I built a cat deck. Well, I've never built a cat deck before, so how do you estimate one? Well, you kind of put your thumb up in the air and figure out how much a normal deck costs and then shrink it down and hopefully you make some money. But it's that kind of thing with remodeling. It's like people always ask you, "Can you do this?" It's like, "Yes." Now the answer after that is how much, and that's the hard part. So,
Yeah.
I love it. And before we move on, I'm just so curious. Robert, I know that you've been like the quiet giant in the background. You haven't been talking yet. What are you using, honey? You're still on mute. Let's see if Robert can unmute himself. Are you able to do that? Let's see if I can unmute him. Are you able to unmute yourself, Robert? Because I'm having a hard time unmuting you. Uh, oh, well.
All
It's
right, I'm going to continue.
okay. Thanks. Sorry. And thanks for everyone for participating. Thanks, Mark. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Thanks,
So
everybody.
anyway, this here is another list. It's like a checklist that we do prior to like covering the walls. It's actually the lead carpenter on site is supposed to check all this stuff prior to. It's actually prior to the all trades inspection. So you put the job name here, you put the date, who actually wrote the checklist out, and you just make sure like switch locations, everything good, or plug locations, door switches, phone outlets. I mean, this is old, right? We're not doing phone outlets anymore, but yeah, you just kind of go through all this because the last thing we want to do is like pass the all trades inspection and then start covering things up and covering like outlets or not having things installed that should have been installed. So this is just making sure that everything is like in place prior to the all trades inspection so that we can run straight into drywall right after that. So it's checklists like this that can really save you a lot of money, mainly because like one of the most frustrating things is having to tear open drywall or redo something because like whoever was on the job site actually wasn't managing it properly. So lists like this just kind of like what I said in one of those first quotes when it talked about making lists like lowers your anxiety. You don't have to worry about is everything included. You just go through this list and you check it off to double check everything. And so it just makes like the lead carpenter's life easier. And then we just make sure like, I'll talk to them and say, hey, did you fill out the checklist? And they'll say, yeah, I fill out the checklist. And it just like it cuts back on mistakes happening. Because once the wall starts getting covered and that's when you start losing money when you have to open up walls, especially after things get painted. Um, This is another list we do. Like this is just for a countertop template. And we put these in the binders like in like countertops, the code for countertops is 0916. That at least that's the code we use for it. And so like in the binder, when you go to section 09 and you flip to section 0916, you'll have like the countertop quote. You'll have like the any email correspondence that we had with the countertop subcontractor. You'll have like the like request for quote that I sent the countertop people so that like the lead carpenter knows like what I actually requested them to bid. And sometimes it actually has little sketches that are marked up and whatnot, so they kind of have an understanding. But they kind of want to go through that you know before the countertop company comes to template the countertops. They want to know, okay, where are the backsplashes? What are the heights of the backsplashes? At a bathroom, like Is the backsplash just on the back side of the vanity, or is it on the left and right side too? Because sometimes we don't put backsplashes all over the vanity. So they confirm that they make sure like the outlets are like at the right heights, so because we don't want an outlet like 6 inches high and the backsplash is only 4 inches and you have some weird looking outlet sticking out. So that, we'll check the outlets, the medicine cabinet heights. Like a lot of times we're doing these recessed medicine cabinets and we want to make sure that like the backsplash, the countertop backsplash isn't like impeding on like where the medicine cabinet's actually going to be. So these are all being double checked prior to the countertop company coming out to template. Edge details, like we want to make sure like if the kitchen has a special edge detail, the lead carpenter needs to be making sure he understands what edge details are for each bathrooms, kitchen, laundry room. Sink cutouts, they got to make sure all the sinks are cut out. The sinks are set in place. The sink overhangs are like setbacks. Like, so is it a, when it's an undermount sink, you got to make sure like what the overhang is going to be or how much is it going to be undermounted in the sense of like our fabricator when they come out to template, that those are questions that they're going to ask. And so I don't want to be like called and ask questions that my lead carpenter should know if he actually looks in the binder. Is the plywood substrate installed? Like, so they need to go through this check. Are metal brackets installed at islands where there's overhangs? Uh, Countertop overhangs determined. So like what's the like, it's a 12-inch overhang, a 15-inch overhang, like, all these curb tops for bathrooms. A lot of times we do countertops. The same fabricator does our vanities and our kitchen countertops will also do the curb tops. The edge details for the curb tops a lot of times are different than your details for vanities or kitchen countertops. Same with shower benches, shelves that we put in niches, or even like bottom of niches will, we might have countertop material too. So like, because it'll happen sometimes where like if our lead carpenter, and this is why we made this checklist, because like our countertop template company goes out there to do the template, and then like I find out that they didn't template one of the niches, they didn't template a bench, and it's all because like our lead carpenter didn't like read the binder. But like once we made this checklist, well now they just go through the checklist before the so if the countertop company is coming out on a Tuesday, they need to have this filled out like Monday afternoon and be ready for when they're coming on Tuesday. So that like, when the templater is asking questions, they just, they can answer all their questions. So this is another example of a list that makes it so like mistakes aren't happening and the company's more efficient. These are schedules that we do. And you can kind of see it down here at the bottom, but we'll actually have the homeowner sign off on these schedules as well as us. Like the homeowner and the contractor will sign off on them. But this is like a job. They're essentially the same schedule. It's just one's a grout schedule, the other one's a paint schedule. Um, Actually, this actually I accidentally included two paint schedules, but we have another schedule for a grout schedule. But this is just like we have the homeowner fill this out or the designer fills this out and they just go down here. They say the room, like what the wall color is, what the manufacturer of the paint is, what the wall finish is, and they go through like each room and they tell us. Now some of it's match existing, some of it like the whole house is all painted the same color or whatnot. But we want them to fill this out and then sign at the bottom. Because if a client comes back and they say, oh, like, you know, it just this creates problem. This prevents problems from happening when it comes to like, us putting the wrong color in, or the client saying that they wanted this color here, where it's like, well, no, you fill this paper out and you sign it at the bottom. So like, we're gonna have to charge you a change order. And again, there's times, when we have clients that are spending 1.5 million or 2 million or 2.5 million dollars on a remodel, like and they messed up on like painting one of the rooms, we might not charge them a change order. Like, and a lot of that has to do with like us knowing what the budget is and going over the budget in our biweekly meetings. Like, because we'll go over the budgets too because when we do job costing, we like biweekly we'll know where we are with labor on each code, and we'll review that with the carpenters. So it'll give us information to know like, hey, like, and it's not that we can't charge a change order. It's just that sometimes like it might be like actually beneficial to the company just to let something slide, or to not nickel and dime. I get one time like a client changed we had already bought the paint and it was like a $1.5 million job and they changed the paint color after we already bought it. And I emailed them saying like, I emailed the homeowner saying like, hey, we'll have to charge you like $50 for that. And then the designer emailed back, replied all to me, and she said, I'll cover the cost. So like in that particular case, like the designer was pretty much signaling to me that like you're nickel and diming these clients, right? So like, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, yes, can we make $50 more? But like, is it wise to like nickel and dime clients? Sometimes it's not. So, and job costing actually helps you make those decisions sometimes because, if you're losing money or like if you've been giving the clients like things and, maybe you should be charging them the $50. So it helps you make decisions. This is our construction schedule. So, we'll use Microsoft Office. So like, a lot of our spreadsheets and our checklists and stuff are done through Microsoft Excel. Like our estimating software is something called UDA. Our project management software is and our budgeting is actually done through QuickBooks through our accounting software. But like our scheduling software is done through Microsoft Project. And so it's mainly because like this is a software that I know like the best. And so like we create these Gantt charts, and basically it kind of outlines the entire project and how long the project's going to take. This particular project's a kitchen, and we'll even do it back to where like we signed the contract with the client because the project will start like we might need to order cabinets like months before the project actually starts. Same with like tile, depending on lead times. But so this kind of when we do the construction schedule, this actually will help us. It'll help the production manager like really start laying out like, hey, have the windows been ordered yet? Like you start to understand the project and like like when you do make this construction schedule, the production manager actually starts to give them knowledge as to like what needs to get done and like when it needs to get done. And that can even be like a month or two before the project starts. Um, but yeah, this kind of just gives us an idea of like, like we have critical tasks in green and owner tasks are in red because there's things that like the owners like they can actually delay projects too by not giving us decisions on things. And so like we do have weekly meetings with the homeowners. And so like, and I'll email the schedule and like our job progress notes, which I don't have in this slideshow, but we have these job progress notes that we go over with the homeowner as well as with like the designers. And I'll email everything out to everyone so that everyone knows like tasks that they need to not hold up a project. And when we do all this, like if we are delayed in a project, sometimes it is the homeowner's fault and like they kind of know it's their fault. And so if we are behind schedule on something, a lot of times the homeowners aren't even like upset because they know they're at fault. Or sometimes like we can be behind in schedule and it actually is our fault. Or it's really no one's fault. It's just like, for instance, like right now in San Jose, like inspections are like 4 to 5 weeks out. And so I've informed a lot of our homeowners that like, we're like scheduling the inspections right away, but we're still like and we're going to call the city and try to get the inspections moved up, but there could possibly be delays. So one of the key things too when it comes to managing clients is actually presenting a construction schedule, having weekly job meetings, and then also what that does is like because you're like communicating with the clients all the time, like when we have been like delayed on a project, they're actually like a lot of times with a homeowner, the stress is more the unknown. But if we have bad news, we just present the bad news to them. And a lot of times we're like, oh, that it sucks that that's the case, but like they know it. Whereas like a lot of contractors, and I'd say probably like 90% of them, they'll just hide from the client. And the client doesn't like the process because like they're sort of don't know what's going on. So like we'll just address issues like up front with them in our meetings. And it helps us like move the project along faster too, because we're always like letting them know what's going on. And if we are behind schedule, I'll be telling them, hey, we might be behind schedule like in framing, but what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna push the tile guy to like get like an extra tile crew on site. So like the tile installation, instead of it taking 8 weeks, could actually possibly take 6 weeks. So I'll tell them areas where I think we can make time up. But yeah, and sticking to schedule, this is another way to stay efficient and to like keep your projects like, you know, profitable is like driving schedule and not letting go of the schedule. So like, our project managers and our production managers, like what we'll do is like the schedule means everything. Now there are times when we'll get so caught up on schedule that like you don't want to do something where you make a really bad mistake where you say, hey, just cover the wall anyway, like we'll address it later. Like you could end up like having a plumbing issue or something else that you should have paused the project and like addressed it at the right time and delayed the project maybe 2 days, whereas it can come back to bite you if you like get too caught up in pushing schedule. But in general, like if you push the schedule and you're like always on top of the schedule and like, telling a subcontractor, hey, like I have you scheduled for this date. I told you 2 months ago that you're coming out here. Like you're telling me that you can't get here on Thursday, like till Thursday, and I had you scheduled for Tuesday. Can you at least try to make it Wednesday? There's like it kind of like as long as you're always pushing schedule in general, like subcontractors will like fall in line if like they know how you are with like managing your projects and also being ready for them, right? Like when I told you about the countertop template, like having our lead carpenter making sure that like everything's ready. Like if a subcontractor knows when they show up to your job site that you're going to be ready, well, they're going to be more apt to be like, yeah, I'll come in when you want me to come in. Whereas like if they show up and like, the drywall guys and you say like, oh, you can't drywall that room, you can't do this room, and like this wall, this ceiling, you can't drywall. Like it just becomes this like hodgepodge of like you're actually hurting the subcontractor and they're not making money on your projects because you're not managing it properly. And so like the more like prepared as a general contractor or like a design build contractor you are for your subcontractors, the more happy they're gonna want to like be on your job site because they're gonna be making money. So these are just change orders. Like this is a field change order that we actually don't fill these out too often, but like I'll put these in the job binders and I'll give them to the lead carpenters just in case there's like ever like a change order that like the client asks for something and it's something that like the lead carpenter can fill out real quick and get the client to sign. And then once they do sign this, well then the change order on the left is our actual like official change order that we'll do through we actually do this through Microsoft Excel and then I turn it into a PDF and email it to the clients. But and then we actually take this change order and we put it into QuickBooks when we because we do all of our job costing through QuickBooks, which took us a long time to set up, but basically yeah, these are our change orders and we're pretty big too. Like our construction contract, it says like, hey, we're not going to be doing any change order work until the client signs off on it. And so like we try to stay ahead of change orders. And like when we have these weekly meetings, like I'll bring those up. Like, hey, I have to get you this change order and it'll be on me or it'll be on like someone in our company. Like we have to get the pricing to the client so that they can approve it so that we stay on schedule. And sometimes like, if I'm behind or something, I get a change order to a client late, or it could be a change order for like 25,000, $35,000, right? And I hand it to them. I'm like, hey, you need to make a decision tomorrow. Well, sometimes they can't make the decision that fast, or they'll have like a bunch of questions after I present it to them. And in general, too, like these change orders, like if it's something that's like a $500, $1,000, or even like a $1,500 change order or a $2,000 change order, those are change orders I will email to clients. But when it starts to get to be over 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, up, I won't email them the price. Like I'll actually want to present it to them in person and talk it through them, talk it through with them. And that's just because like I just don't like emailing large numbers to clients. Like I do the same thing with my estimates too. Like I won't just a lot of clients will say, "Hey, just email it to me," but like I always like to like actually meet them in person and talk to them about it.
Soften the blow.
It softens the blow, but also too when they see you, like, because they'll see a price and be like, "Oh, why is it $50,000?" And they know we mark stuff up, but like when you talk to them in person and they see like you're not like they'll be able to read your body language and your eye contact, and they'll know, that you're not ripping them off just by like the way you're talking to them and making eye contact with them. Whereas like so they can see it and they'll trust you a lot more. And sometimes too, it's like when you do go in to present a change order, you want to be prepared to like you want to know like everything that's involved. So like clients will complain like, well, it should only take like 4 hours to this. It's like, no, we have to go to the lumber yard and then we have to wait 15, 20 minutes for the lumber yard to sometimes longer to get our lumber. So by the time we get to the job site, we've already burned an hour and a half. And
Mhm.
then, there's other things like if a change order like extends a project 3 or 4 days, we put general like conditions in there, right? Like the outhouse, we have to pay for 3 or 4 more days. The fence, we have to pay for 3 or 4 more days. The power pole, we have to pay for 3 or 4 more days. The amount of time that we have to clean up, like just having our guys on a job site for 3 or 4 more days, like we have to add that cost in. So like when you start explaining that stuff to clients, they start to understand like, oh, okay, I understand why it's like it isn't just like, you know, the things that I thought it was. So just like explaining the cost, because we don't always write every single like, thing in the change order. So anyway, this is just a summary. We went over the construction codes and just to reiterate on the construction codes, it runs through everything. It runs through our accounting system, our job costing, our time cards, our receipts. The employees put it on the receipts. Our binder is broken out by code system. Even when they get the binder, there's section one, section two, section three. So they'll know where to go for the so everything's based on the construction codes. Like the whole system's run through that, even our estimating software. Um, We went over like meetings and time cards. I didn't really go over our weekly job meetings, but we do have weekly job meetings too with the clients. I kind of wish I had gone over that, but and then we went over the pre-construction form that we fill out with our clients, the lists that we make, the selection schedules, the project schedules, and change orders. And so these just implementing these systems into our construction process and like everyone following the system and understanding the system like it just makes it so your projects run way more efficiently and you can track job costing and like going over these meetings, like that is a system. And so like scheduling time to go over with your lead carpenters how the job is going so that they know how a job is going and they know like they can take ownership of their projects. Because one lead carpenter say, hey, why are my projects, you know, always over hours? In general, we always run over hours on our projects, but like um some leads will run over more hours than other leads. And so when they see their projects and they see other projects, it kind of gives them some competition too. So anyway, we don't really have time for questions because it's 5 o'clock, but
So Mark, do you have this presentation in a PDF or some slide deck that
yeah, I can email it to you.
yeah, if you email it to me, then I can get it out to everybody. There are people that didn't, they signed up, but they didn't get on here. And then Robert, I don't see you on my list of those that signed up. If you want to, you can type in the chat, or you can get off mute, and I can get your email if you want me to send you Mark's presentation. So just let me know how you want to do it. Judy, I see that I also got yours, and I thank you for that because I didn't see you on my list either. So glad you're here. How'd you hear about us, Judy? Was it through an email or through Nari overall?
Through Nari. I'm very involved in the Diablo chapter.
Oh, yes.
Nari, yeah.
Excellent. I'm so glad. You can come over and play with Silicon Valley chapter anytime. Um, and then I know that Arthur wanted to get people's emails because he's doing some research for his project on. Arthur, you want to talk about it? You're doing research on something about project teams.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what we're trying to do is figure out how to make the collaboration that happens between like designers, subcontractors, project managers go better because my understanding, just talking to a couple of folks, it's a lot of pain with all the information around jobs, like all the spec sheets, all of these lists that Mark was showing kind
Yeah.
of exist in different locations and continuously evolve throughout the job. So there's constantly changes, and changes is like the normal for you guys. And so I was trying to understand how project teams deal with that problem. What do you kind of do to solve those kind of things today? Just because I'm trying to see, like, well, where can we eventually build something that's useful? So really just doing research, talking to people, picking their brains. And if people are up to helping out, would love to have your email and I can follow up with you later and see if we can find some time to chat.
Awesome. Awesome.
Hey, Jennifer,
Yeah.
does this presentation, is this getting like
It
recorded?
is being recorded. Yeah. It's just that I don't have any control over it. It's like it's being handled by our executive director. And so I just don't know if the Fireflies notes are really taking notes because sometimes they
Yeah,
like pretend that they're taking notes, but you got to pay to
yeah.
access those notes.
But does
Normally,
it go on like the website or like how do you find the recording? Or do you just,
Yeah. Will
what
you
happens
email it?
is they take the recording and they put it on the website. Anna does that.
all right.
Hmm.
And it goes on which website? The Nari website or
Nari
you
Silicon
marked?
The
Valley.
Nari Silicon Valley website.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
let me see if I can pull it up. Um, narisv.org. And then it's under, let's see, free education webinars. And then I saw it at one point. Oh, here, let me share my screen. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So share my screen. Sorry, Mark, I'm gonna kick you out as far as sharing the screen.
All right, no worries.
So anyway, um uh you can see, watch the recording. And that's weird. This is June 24th, 2026, and we haven't. Oh, that's right. Sorry, we're July. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. I'm thinking that June is July. Duh. So anyway, yes, last session we did that, and then we watched the recording. So how I got to it was narisiliconvalley.org/educational webinars. And what I will do is I will put this in the chat so everyone can go to that and you can bookmark it and then get access to the upcoming. But no, truly, everybody, I'm so excited. When people actually show up to our educational webinars, I feel so good and so vindicated because we really do try to put forth really interesting information. And Mark, you nailed it, buddy. And I really appreciate you. I know how busy you are. For September, everybody, just so you know, we have sorry, August 26th is our next one. Friction to Flow, AI powered customer journey transformation. Let me just see who is teaching that. I believe that is, yeah, Rathna Ramakrishnan, who owns remodelerdigital.com. So, yeah, it's going to be, it says your marketing funnel is leaking prospects at every stage. Visitors abandon your landing pages, leads go cold in your nurture sequences, and qualified prospects slip through the cracks before they ever reach sales. Meanwhile, your competitors are using AI to turn anonymous visitors into engaged leads with surgical precision. This workshop shows you exactly how to eliminate lead generation friction using AI automation that works behind the scenes. So, et cetera, et cetera. But no, truly, everybody, I'm so happy you're here. Mark, you crushed it. And if you have any feedback for me, please contact me. Jennifer fills in at gmail.com. I'll put it in here. And then if you have a topic that you want us to talk about in future, please let me know. I am open to any and all suggestions. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Have fun.